Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Happy Sunday. Words are escaping me right now. I know there's a couple of them out there I'm forgetting, but what is up? Chat is full. How you doing, Shane? Trail Duds, Transcendental Artist Studios, Stephen Parsons. Missed you last week, buddy. John Burnell. I already said Shane alone. Jack Pines. How you doing, man? Rolling. Man, you guys are just chit chatting a lot. Jeez, talking about fishes and streams and what's up, Boar? What's up, Philworks? And Paul Orchard has made it. Ben Toombs gets a hello. Insanity Forge, Deranged Metal Iron Works, Dogbone Knives, Curtis Lee, Mr. Pekka, Robert Whitney. Yeah, all right, I gotta stop there. Good morning, and how is everybody doing today? Um, and this is Sunday morning, the Sunday morning gathering with the Impractical Blacksmiths. I am Yamez, and we have Alexis and Adam here with us. And for those of you who are new to the show, whether it's through the YouTube or through the podcasts, we typically do um, our good mornings, hellos, and greet everybody's, and then we do the how was your week segment, and then we do topic. Today's topic will be the Celts and Celtic metalworking, and then we kind of just pit around and chit chat and just have some fun. Uh, yeah, I was listening to some of our podcasts and I realized we don't actually have an intro. We just start talking. So I'm gonna try and think about that. But anyway, how's y'all's week? Who wants
Yeah,
to go first?
got it. I got it. So, it was interesting, I guess. I went home on Monday-ish, I guess, something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I had my annual doctor's appointment this week, and got a new doctor because my guy moved or something, and yeah, got blood work done. Everything checked out pretty much okay. Just had a few things that were high that some of them are due to my medication, and some of them are due to uh, reduce your protein intake and less. I work on my triglycerides, and I'm going to wind up having a heart attack or a stroke. But other than that, I mean, like healthy as a I don't know, cat, I guess. um, Not much else happened. Drove home day before yesterday, or not home, but back to Midland to work. And about halfway, I heard this crunch, crunch, crunch sound. When I turned a corner, I was like, "Hmm, that sounds like a wheel bearing." Hmm.
Mm.
And so I got out and like kind of like grab the top of the tire to see if I get any shake on it. Of course I can't because it's the weight of the truck is on it. And I was like, "All right, well, there ain't nothing I can do about it right now, and just run it till it grenades, I guess." And I made it all the way back to the yard, and boy, those last couple turns, boy, I'd turn and just start screaming. And I'm like, oh man, I hope I didn't mess the spindle up. And I pulled into the parking spot here and reached down and I put the back of my hand up against the hub, and oh, it was hot. And of course, I checked the other side to compare, and it was just, it was cold. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe it'd be all right. I hope I didn't. I hope I didn't temper the spindle. And after the show today, I'm gonna go out there and jack it up and pull the wheel and the brakes off, and get in there and see what bearings I need to buy and pack and all that. So I got that going on. And other than that, I got a phone call at about 12:30 last night. A family member had a heart attack and is getting on a helicopter headed to the hospital. I have no idea how that's gone. I'm going to find that out after the show as well. So that's my
Yeah,
week.
well, I hope everything's all right. I would like to take a quick moment before we move to Adam and say big thank you, and everybody in the chat should thank Black Collar. He just gifted 5 memberships uh, to
Woohoo!
a bunch of people in the chat: Paul Orchard, George Anderson, and Paul Fontanini. Um,
I don't know
that's
what you're talking
that's awesome. Huge thank you. Um, but yeah,
Paul Orchard
sorry.
got another one. How about that?
about. Someone might
Um,
got my card. One of my army members.
what's up, Hubcap? Sorry I had to interrupt you. Continue, please. I'm sorry. It's Adam's
his,
turn, but I
Oh,
shut him up.
okay,
I
yeah,
shut him up before he started talking.
That's a really anyone being able to shut me up is an amazing thing. Now my week, it's basically been more of the same. Today was the first time in like 3 weeks it hasn't rained, and so all I've really been doing is planning. I've been doing the five P's, prior preparation, preventing poor performance. But I've also, in order to come up, kind of make up the time and do something, I've just been doing more work on my book. A lot more research, reaching out to certain people, trying to get permission to use pictures and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that hasn't gone as well as I would have liked, but it is what it is. I've got plenty of pictures to use anyway, but it's just been doing deep dives into that, and trying to keep myself occupied and not going crazy. Also with this, and I was just saying to Yames before the stream, a couple of weeks ago when I was watching Roy's stream, he was talking about the books, or the after stream for members. He was talking about some of his inspirations out of the books that he's got, and Baroque ironwork and stuff like that. And I said, well, you're definitely getting a copy of my book when I get it finished. And I've actually in the process of actually starting to get everything together, I've realized just how much Baroque ironwork and plans and all that type of thing I have, and it is ridiculous. I reckon at least a quarter of this book is going to be how-tos on, or like not saying how-tos, but plans and designs of a whole heap of Baroque ironwork. And I reckon that Roy would love. I found the name of the person that did the Hampton Heath Court palace in the UK, all the ironwork for the gates and stuff. That was Jean Tijoux, and he was the designer of that. And I reckon Roy would really like the designs of ironwork that he did for Hampton Heath, because he started on what's that really flashy palace that cost billions of dollars in France.
Notre Dame?
I can't remember. No.
The sure.
The one. Yeah, the one. Yeah, the really fancy one that's like all decked out in gold but has like no bathrooms. So Jean Tijoux did started his design and apprenticeship there, and by the time they finished that, he actually moved to England and like spent 25 years or something working on the Hampton Heath Court palace, and did all the ironwork there. And it's got some, if you have a chance to jump on, and I recommend Google Maps, because you can actually walk around the fences, and you can go to not only, so you've got the lion gate at one end, and then you've got the main gate, and then you can actually walk around some of the perimeter, or use Google Maps to go around some of the perimeter and look at some of the Baroque ironwork they have around the fences, and also around some of the smaller pedestrian gates and some of the gate houses along the actual perimeter. And it is absolutely mind-boggling. I would honestly say that period for me, in my opinion, was, and so this is late Baroque, would be the peak of ironwork, and also English Baroque and French Baroque are slightly different, and then you have there's other styles as well, and there's a slightly different, because Baroque was much more religious based, and then there was another style that came, I think it was a Rosette or something like that, which came or Roquette, sorry, which came after Baroque, which is a little more secular, but still very pretty and asymmetrical. And anyway, so that's I'm starting to babble about ironwork, but yeah, so that's what I basically that's what I did for this week, and hopefully it dries out and I can start doing things as of next week, being my next week off, of course. So yeah.
Hey, Adam, I just before Amos goes, right, a couple questions. One of them is when you told Roy you were going to give him a copy of your book. How did you react when he said no, thank you?
He didn't, which was surprising.
Okay, fine. You didn't.
I think he said hell no.
Yeah. Anyways, and the other one is, what is the big deal? What is why is what is everybody's fascination with broke ass ironwork? I've got a whole pile of it out there underneath my forge that I've burned, that I've bent the wrong direction. I mean, it's like that's the easiest thing to do is mess your stuff up. You know, I mean,
I'm
I don't
a
know
pro
why-
at broke ironwork.
it's like,
But messing it up to make it, and messing it up whilst making it look pretty, that's a skill. It's like falling
So-
upstairs.
It's like going
Alright,
into
okay.
orbit. You fall down to fly.
Exactly.
All right,
And that's
so
the
He's saying he's just making that grill to put it on his front of his truck.
all right, so
yeah.
I've got some stuff to say for my how's my week.
I've got something to say.
Actually, firstly, so that because okay, so we do have another guest here. We have Black Collar in the Army. We'll do a quick how is your week there?
I'm doing pretty good. My gas forge gave me a haircut.
Nice.
I kind of look like Friar Tuck, so
Oh,
I actually had
man.
to shave my whole head.
Yeah, it's all right. I look like
You know,
Friar Tuck
even
all the
it out.
time.
And that, so yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh, we thank you for being a supporter.
So
Uh,
how did that happen?
I was not following safety protocol. Okay, it was my own dumbass fault. And I should have had the gas off at the forge, which I thought I did. And I had a lit candle because I couldn't find any damn matches. So I'm reaching down trying to find some cardboard to light on fire, and the damn thing blew up on my head.
You still have your eyebrows.
Well, no, I had my safety glasses on, and I'm bending over right in front of it. He's like, "Oh, here's a piece of cardboard."
Wow.
And then my
Just-
pup is going, here's the loud bang. She comes running over and sees if I'm okay. And she's like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. Buddy, what are you doing? You know, but yeah, I just smacked the hell out of my head and I got it out.
So
Yeah.
to the listeners out there, do as we say and not as we do.
It was actually literally on fire then, huh?
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, it kind of looked like one guy on Home Alone 2 or something.
Yeah. I did a similar thing this weekend. Oh, I mean, I didn't get burned, but I cleaned out my coal forge at the house, and I put some sticks down on the bottom, and of course I'm lazy, so I just went over and got the can of gasoline and just dribbled a little bit on there, and then I walked over and I grabbed my little torch and lit it, and of course it's been like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I just reached the torch over there to touch it to the sticks. Well, the fumes had drifted down the downpipe on my forge, and it went off like a 12 gauge shotgun. Boom, and I'm inside a tin building, and I was like, "Ooh, oh, that hurt." My like 10, 15 seconds later, my daughter and her husband came running out. Did something just blow up? What? Are you okay? And I was like, yeah, sorry about that. That was me. We're good. So like, yeah, my ears were ringing a bit, but we're okay.
Yeah. Sounds exciting. I'm glad you're okay.
Note to self, what do you call it, lacquer thinner or a white gas, Coleman camper fuel works really well for starting a forge. Gasoline can be a little problematic on occasion.
Yeah. Oh man.
So how was
So-
your week, Yamas?
My week. All right. Work as usual throughout the week. I did get out to the forge, to the shop yesterday. I forged myself a handle for the crank blower that I was working on last week, and it turned out pretty good. Drilled a hole for for a set screw to set it to the shaft, and I misdrilled it. So I'm gonna have to plug it and drill another one, or just weld the handle on like I did last time. But yeah, that went good. Got some other stuff in the shop done. Found a bad leak that I had not known about, and it started to damage a lot of my shelving. So had to take a break and take care of that. Probably about 10 gallons of water I vacuumed out of there. It sucked. So all this particle board. So all this particle board, I gotta let it dry out and replace with good stuff. But yeah, that was my Saturday. Last night, early morning. This is getting into some creepy stuff, and it has nothing to do with blacksmithing, but I was up last night until about 3 a.m. I went to bed around midnight, shut my lights off, and for those of you who follow the Discord, you can look at in Island Metal Forge. I posted some videos. I'm going to go over to them right now. Excuse me. But yeah, I shut my lights off and I saw this, and I have no lights in my room. I tape off LEDs, because I like pitch black when I sleep. I have blackout curtains and basically nothing, that can glow. And I saw 2 eyes over by my door. Okay.
Dude, that's totally an Enderman.
It could be.
Sorry, Yamez, that was me.
Yeah.
You caught me.
I took several pictures of it, turned my flashlight on, and hold on. This is where I saw it, right about here. Okay. Right about here was where it was. Every time I'd turn the light on, it wasn't there. Every time, here's a video of it.
Still there.
Me laying in my bed taking a video of my door. 2 freaking glowing eyes. No clue what the heck it was. It's a bit off-centered, on the YouTube stream, I know, but yeah. So, yeah, I had a freaking, a night. I have no idea what it was. And go back to the video or the stream thing. And anybody who wants to go to the Discord and go to the Island Metal Forge tab can look at those pictures and videos closer up than just this YouTube thing. And I'm open to suggestions on what it was because I have no clue. Freak me out.
Might be a ultraviolet light reflecting off the door from there on your side of the room.
Oh, ultraviolet light. I'm sorry. I literally have no light sources in my room.
No, not the ultraviolet. The infrared. Like if you had like buttons or anything that it's not a visual spectrum. So, but your camera can pick it up.
Right. The problem with that is, while your phone can see infrared, your camera, and you can't, Yamez could see it. That's why he took the picture and the video of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
Yeah. So Roy goes, "How much pot did you smoke?" I know he's just kidding. And I've had people, because I've talked about this in some other chats too, and it was like, maybe you're just hallucinating, and it's like, but it's on my camera, like you guys see it, So that was. I'm a bit out of it today because of that. It was up all night.
Yamez, you need to get a cat.
Nope.
So you can. He's like, go, you damn cat.
Cats are.
Blame it on the cat.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah, cats are yeah. But yeah, so no idea what it is, no idea what it was, and no idea if it's going to be back again tonight. So we'll see. Anyway,
You should ask
moving
him to make
on.
coffee.
Huh?
You should ask him to make you coffee, or her,
No kidding. Put it to
or
work.
it.
Yeah,
You know.
put it to work.
I mean, you're gonna be here. You might as well work for your keep. And
So who runs on the dresser?
Be like, come on over and cuddle. I'm lonely. But yeah, so yeah, just dealing with that, and we'll see what happens tonight. Anyway, with that, I don't want to make the whole show about potential supernatural or whatever. Use the Discord chat to type in suggestions of what I can look into and blah blah blah. I'm at a loss. And I'm too tired
teared out
to deal
my
with it.
pegboard. It was my favorite pegboard, and you tore it out.
But yeah, so with that, our topic today is, because it's March and March has St. Patrick's Day and all that stuff, we are opening this month with the Celtic era, or how do I say this? The Celtic metallurgy, and ancient Celtic society, and how they, dealt with and worked with metal, specifically iron. So I believe Adam has about 1,000-page essay that he wrote, and yeah, or is it 1,000 words? I don't know. So let's move on.
Okie dokie. So, I'm going to start off today with a little bit of the history of the Celts, and just lightly introduce it to us all. So, the early Celts rarely wrote about themselves. To the Greeks, they were known as the Keltoi, the Keltai, and the Galatai, and later to the Romans, they were the Celti, the Celtae, and the Galli. Although we don't actually know what the Celts called themselves. Evidence of Celtic culture has been found from the British Isles to Western Romania, and from the northern European plain to south of the Po Valley in northern Italy, and into Spain. Investigations of Celtic lives and language, their origin and demise, have been undertaken by historians, geographers, archaeologists, and linguists since as early as 500 BCE. Early sources place Celts in Western Europe and also occupying land near the headwaters of the Danube River. Their home territories have often been traced to central and eastern France, extending across southern Germany and into the Czech Republic. The name Celts and the term Celtic is often it's a modern determination, which is used to describe many tribes of peoples who lived during the Iron Age. None of the classical texts refer to the peoples of Britain and Ireland as Celts. Therefore, as the Celts were a collection of tribes, they are more generally known by the name of those tribes or societies, as opposed to a collective nation or empire. It's believed the Celts were a collection of tribes which originated in Central Europe. Although separate tribes, they had similar traditions, beliefs, cultures, and languages. Debate exists as to whether Celts is even a valid referent, or the term Celtic is a valid referent, as there is no evidence to suggest that populations have been identified as Celtic consider themselves members of a coherent group. Classical sources referred to the occupants of southern France as Gauls. They, along with the Galatians, who invaded Macedonia and Greece, are presumed to be Celts. Julius Caesar recognized similarities between Celts of the British Island and Gauls, although other sources, including Pythias of Massalia, who sailed the Celtic Atlantic in the second half of the 4th century BCE, failed to make association between the two groups. Material culture between the insular Celts of Britain and the continental Celts shows a distinct connection, however, and with insular Celtic craft producers rapidly adopting continental styles and then adapting to their own taste. This is particularly visible with ancient Celtic gold work, where particularly for the torques that they would wear into battle sometimes, and particularly for higher status golden torques, there are actually evidence and in the gold work itself of Mediterranean and Spanish artisans either trading with British and the British Isles Celtics, or having had moved there to practice their trade in those regions. The first mention of Celts was actually made by Greek authors between 540 and 424 BCE. The most valuable insights are provided by Roman authors. As the Romans were expanding, they came in direct contact with Celts on their northern borders. However, these classical texts are incomplete and they are often copied long after the event. The first mention of Celts, as mentioned, was made by Greek authors in 279 BCE, the Celts were known to have looted Delphi, the sacred Greek site, and Strabo, the geographer, recorded a meeting between Celts and Alexander the Great in 335 BCE in the Balkans. Classical writers had recorded large-scale migration of the Celts soon after 400 BCE, and this migration took the Celts from Central Europe into northern Italy and Eastern Europe. Excuse me. It's believed that the Celts arrived at the shores of Britain at approximately 1000 BCE and lived there during the Iron Age, the Roman Age, and the post-Roman era. The legacy continues today, where examples of language, culture, and traditions continue to exist. Today, Wales, Ireland, and Scotland are seen as Celtic nations. Their Celtic identities are widely accepted and contributed to their wider modern nationalities. Tracing the beginnings of Celtic languages is difficult. Most agree that they derive from an earlier language known as Proto-Indo-European, and this probably reached Western Europe through the movement of peoples possibly from Central Asia between 6000 and 2000 BCE. Unfortunately, there is little agreement over precisely when this occurred and how Celtic languages subsequently developed. On current understanding, Celtic languages have their origins sometime between 6000 and 600 BCE, with the earliest known inscriptions in Celtic language being found in northern Italy and dating the 6th century BCE. George Buchanan, a 16th century scholar, suggested that the peoples of continental Europe once spoke a related group of Gaelic languages, since modern Welsh, Irish, and Scots Gaelic were similar to ancient languages, the people of Britain, I would argue, originally came from France and Spain. A pioneering study by Edward Livid of 1707 recognized two families of Celtic languages: P Celtic or Brittonic, being Welsh, Briton, and Cornish, and Q Celtic or Goidelic, being Irish, Scots Gaelic, and Manx. The Brittonic languages were assumed to have come from Gaul and France, whilst Goidelic languages were given Iberian, Spain, and Portuguese origin. From the 18th century, people who spoke Celtic languages were seen as Celts. The native tongue of Wales, known as Crymu by the Celts, is Welsh. Welsh is a Celtic language and is still widely spoken in Wales and across the world. In Cornwall, although very few still speak Corning, which is in some of the same linguistic stream as Welsh and Breton. In Scotland, Scotch Gaelic is still spoken, although not by as many as Welsh speakers. It is also worth noting that the origin of the bagpipes, a famous musical instrument from Scotland, can be traced to Celtic times as well, and therefore across the British Isles. In Ireland, Gaelish is also known as Irish Gaelic or Irish, is still spoken. A member of the Goidelic group of Celtic languages and one of the national languages of Republic of Ireland, Irish is still taught in public schools and is required for certain civil service posts. Now, blacksmithing in Celtic times. Production of iron implements, weapon, farm tools, construction tools, and medical instruments transformed many aspects of society, especially welfare and agricultural practices. Unlike the components of alloy bronze, iron is plentiful across Europe. Production of iron tools intensified from the Holstart to the Latin, and development of the plowshare and coultier contributed to the movement of farms and villages from the uplands, where light sediments had been tilled for millennia, to the heavier and more productive soils of valley bottoms. Enhanced yields provide surplus that were bartered for items made by increasingly specialized craft producers. Production and market centers that attracted artisans, traders, and farmers were similar to later emporia, Roman emporia. Some even included merchant stores, storage facilities, meeting places, along with residences. We know that iron/steel was traded by the Celts. The Celtic double period or bipyramidal iron bars go back to at least 400 BCE. So-called currency bars or sword bars go back to at least 200 BCE. They consisted of rather inhomogeneous iron and steel, just like the Roman standard iron bars centuries later. The double pyramid or bipyramidal bars, in German as Spitzbarren, are mostly found in what used to be western part of the Celtic heartland, Switzerland, eastern France, southern Germany. They go back to the Latin period or about 400 BCE to the 0C Common Era. Whole hoards have been found in the area, plus the occasional single specimen in Scandinavia, England, and elsewhere in Europe. Currency bars, on the other hand, look a bit like half-made swords. Their German name, Schwertbarren, sword bars, is sword bars. So while that name is self-explaining, the term currency bars is not. Found primarily in England, when the Romans invaded England in around 54 BCE, it was noticed that the early British had smelted bits of tin and iron, but imported copper. There was also the opinion that the British used standardized, more or less, bronze bits and iron staves as a form of currency instead of coins. Caesar recorded in his De Bello Gallico, and in the 19th century, Caesar's influence finally led to early archaeologists to coin the designation currency bars for these peculiar objects. This is open to some doubt, however. While they certainly were a few, whilst there certainly were also just the raw material that a smith bought from some merchant, obviously paying with some other kind of currency, there are around 20 different types of currency bars, possibly reflecting different grades of iron and different areas of origin, different smiths, etc. Currency bars are rather heterogeneous. They cover a whole range of carbon and phosphorus iron, typical for these times, which is no different to the bipyramidal bars. And they are, as some archaeologists claim, far from being high-quality material fit for swords, sickles, or knives. However, as we know, iron in that state can be reworked in order to add carbon or remove carbon in order to make those materials, depending on the process used. And we also know that during that time period, they particularly the Celtics at the time were known to have argued to have actually introduced iron smithing across Europe. So therefore, they also had the ability to do case hardening and particularly introducing carbon into iron to make it steel. So a Celtic swordsmith thus definitely had access to iron and steel. He either bought some of the standard stuff from traveling salesmen, a local ironmonger, or he made it himself. Now, and weapons. The Celts are believed to have brought ironmaking to Europe and made the first iron weapons, including swords, around the 7th century BCE. Iron swords of the time were similar to the bronze swords from previous eras and served as a warrior's symbol. Some warriors even personalized their swords with elaborate decorations on the blade or scabbard. Iron Age blades are often out of shape and remain deformed. However, they should not be confused with the ritually bent swords often found on riverbeds that served as votive offerings to the gods. Celtic and other Iron Age cultures also had a tradition of bending the weapon of a defeated enemy. Towards the end of the Hallstatt period, 800 to 450 BCE, daggers replaced swords, and only during the early Latin period from about 450 BC onward to the Roman conquest of the 1st century BCE was the sword used again. The weapons carried by Celtic warriors include swords, spears, bows, arrows, throwing clubs, and slings. Most Celts wore long swords hung from their right side, but the Parisii of Yorkshire sometimes wore their swords across their back and drew them over the shoulder from behind the head. The Gayastae even fought naked, except wearing a sword belt, gold neck torques, and armlets, which had religious significance. However, other Celtic tribes used shields and wore helmets and breastplates of chainmail. also used daggers as secondary weapons in close quarters combat. The manufacture of Celtic sword was significant to the development of medieval swords or European swords in general. The Celtic Barian and tenor swords were likely the inspiration for the Roman short sword Gladius Hispanicus. Also, the Roman cavalry Sparta evolved from the Iron Age longsword, used by Gallic auxiliary during their Roman service to a weapon of the Roman army. During the migration period, the Roman Sparta remained widely used and later evolved into Viking sword. By medieval ages, Viking swords evolved into single-handed swords that we know were widely used by crusaders. Scottish claymore also evolved from the Scandinavian one-handed swords of late Viking age. So Celtics led to the swords that we know today. Chainmail is believed to have been invented by Celtic people in Eastern Europe about 500 BCE. When the Celts moved west, they took mail with them. Most cultures who use chainmail use the Celtic word barin, or a variant suggesting the Celts are their originators. Around the 2nd century BCE, after the Celts had defeated the Romans, they had demanded a large ransom for leaving the Roman-occupied territories. Despite their defeat in battle, the Romans found that the Gauls wore the first known examples of European pattern chainmail shirts, and found that they were impressed by the Celts and their armor. Soon adopted the oval shield, chainmail, and helmets for their secondary troops. Roman chainmail shirts were referred to as lorica hamata. The Roman army used chainmail for most of its history after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE. The infrastructure to make it plate was largely lost in Europe. As a result, mail was the best available armor during the ensuing early medieval period. So now into agricultural. So before the Celtic plough, a plough known as the ard or scratch plough was used to clear rocky soil and make seed drills. However, they were inefficient at clearing new land, and with other tools such as hoes and mattock needed to pull up the grass and undergrowth. By the 1st century BCE, Belgic criers from southern England had improved the ard. This new plough had an iron ploughshare, which meant that it could move the soil to one side. They were much more effective than the previous models. However, they required a team of 8 oxen to be pulled due to their heavier weight. Consequently, they were hard to turn, and thus Celtic fields were famously long and narrow. The Romans are credited with introducing the coulter, or a vertical cutting blade fixed in front of the ploughshare, to the Celts, though the earliest examples of one were found at an Iron Age fort in Bigbury in Kent. Pliny himself, in fact, noted that the Celtic plough was superior to Roman type, which it eventually replaced. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning the Romans so much in this is because the Celtics didn't have much of a written history. Ugam, which is a form of line writing, is actually still being decoded. However, it's generally written on stone as grave markers or place markers. And historically, there's not much written by the Celts. It didn't seem to have much of a written language for historical purposes, unlike the Romans and the Greeks, which most of our information is secondhand apart from archaeological evidence. Now, the most important one, excuse me, the most important one, I think, besides the plowshare, was the invention of the horseshoe. Now, while no early examples of horseshoes exist and no one actually knows precisely when the horseshoe was invented, some historians suggest it was invented during the Iron Age by the Celts at around 100 BCE. The use of the horseshoe was probably driven more by war than anything else, and the Celts were some of the first warriors who utilized the secrets of their iron in their weaponry. Master metal workers, the Celtic smiths, knew how to work iron to their great benefit. Pounding out the hard material, they were able to make some of the most advanced weaponry as well as the strongest carts and chariots. By encasing the wheel in a sheath of iron, Celtic war chariot became one of the most formidable tools in Celtic warriors' arsenal. Now, the northern type horses, which the Celts rode, had broad feet. Therefore, they were susceptible to wear. So shoes were extremely useful to the Celts. But these horseshoes were primarily used to prevent the horse from skidding, especially on snow and ice. Thus, the horseshoe made traveling much easier. The Romans did have a contraption of their own called the hipposandal. These leather and metal horseshoes were much more inefficient than the Celtic ones and could only be used with horses moving at a walk, which is not much use in battle. The Romans adopted and redeveloped the Celtic horseshoe around 200 CE to something closely resembling a modern plain horseshoe. And as far as can be determined, the horseshoe became common somewhere between the 5th and 9th century CE. So Romans be roaming and basically collecting all the technology of their competent peoples and improving it and using it as their own. So boar, I just saw that. I thought horseshoes were Roman because they had paved roads. Yes and no. There's also evidence in Britain, Ireland, and Scotland and Wales that the Celts actually were able to build roads. Now, they were generally paved with wood. The excavations had done on some old roads throughout the British Isles have been radiocarbon dated to pre-Roman times. But like I said, they were paved with wood. So stone paved roads were pretty much a Roman invention. However, roads themselves weren't. But again, ice being a thing that was common in northern parts of Europe where the Celtics were from makes sense that an iron shoe would be used on the horse, as opposed to, and like I said, the Romans did have a hipper sandal for a horse, which was an iron and leather construction, which were actually tied around the feet, which would have softened the blow on wooden on stone roads, but they wore out quicker and they could only be used at a walk. They couldn't be used so they could be used on horses that were attached to carts or used for horse that you're riding on at a walk, but they weren't useful for traveling at speed, such as, charging the battle or something like that. So yes, they did have one, but they, according to the evidence that I've been able to find and the archaeological evidence that has been presented, the Celts seem to have come up with what is more closely comparable to the modern horseshoe, which the Romans took and then developed further before the Romans, which was different to the Roman shoe of the time. So yeah, that's my bit. Has anyone got anything to add?
I got some quick comments that I find interesting. That it's commonly known that the Romans would take something from other cultures or conquered foes or whatever and improve on it, such as you saw with the vertical blade added to the plowshare. However, it is an interesting note to see that they took something that they had that somebody else had an improved version and utilized that instead. The horseshoe. They were using leather to tie on metal horseshoes and stuff. And well, I can see why a horse can't, go faster than maybe a slow trot, like else the laces would come undone and throw a shoe very easy. And they saw somebody else said, hey, we should have thought of that. And then they did it. So that's my little tidbit on that. Alexis?
Yeah, well, see, I was kind of hoping to go first, but
I'm sorry.
That's all right, because I've got my little outline here of all the stuff I was going to cover, and Adam actually checked off every single thing on my outline. So I have actually nothing constructive to add. There are no isotopes to Celtic ironwork, and he covered all of the information that I had as well. So
all right.
Now, just to clarify for some of the people in chat as well, this top is actually really, really hard, right? Because the Celts recorded basically nothing. All of the evidence that we have on Celtic society is either archaeological or secondhand. There's no written accounts from them. There's no first-hand evidence. It's all like I said, archaeological, or it comes from surrounding cultures. We practically know nothing concrete about the culture apart from those things that still exist. Like you look up ancient Celtic whatever, and it's modern reenactors. It is archaeological evidence about, like I was lucky enough to find some information from the British and the Scottish National Museum regarding some of their displays that they had a few years ago. I've read countless articles and archaeological reports about Celtic and more specifically regional. So you'd read about the Frankish Gauls. You'd read about the Spanish, and you'd read about the Latin period and all that type of stuff. And these are all, again, boxed in as Celtic, but they were. And then you read the Roman, and they call them by different names. They call them by their Roman names. You've got your Gauls, and you've got your barbarians and all that type of stuff, because that's what those spied. And then you come to England, when the Romans invaded England, and so you then by the time the Romans actually got to England, there was 4 main areas across Wales and several across across England, which were different kingdoms or different sub kingdoms. I use loosely because they were tribal areas, but they were known by either by a collective group that they called themselves, or they were known by the name of the leader of that tribe, their king, so to speak. So for example, the Angles, being where Anglo-Saxon come from, they were one of the Celtic groups that were, and later, and that still exists today in Anglo-Saxon, East Anglia, West Anglia, all that type of thing. And then the Saxons came over in 1100, of course, and that changed things up a bit. But so there was no specific, Celtic empire as opposed to the Romans or the Greeks or the Carthaginians and stuff like that, which were known under that term. They were just tribal groups that we don't even know what they called themselves. Those groups were we like serious. It was the only records we've got is what the Romans or other groups called them, not what they called themselves. So even the Angles, the name is technically not correct because it's what the Romans called them. So I found that really interesting. But trying to find anything solid on that is challenging. But yeah, I particularly found it interesting, the horseshoes and the chainmail, because of course we covered chainmail a couple of months back with the Romans, I believe. But just finding different bits of information is always a little bit interesting. Actually, no, I think chainmail might have been Iron Revisited end of last year.
Producer's note. In our pre-show, today was kind of a toss-up for pre-show because of what I dealt with last night. But producer's note. In the future, we should probably go over notes and do a division of labor and discussion, because you literally covered everything I could. I'm right there with you, Alexis.
Yeah, but to be fair, we've only got an hour, and on weeks when we haven't been touching base, we spend the whole hour just
saying hi,
for lack of a term, bullshitting, and then it's like, oh, we got 5 minutes.
Somebody blurb it real quick. Yeah.
Quick, who's picking up today's topic?
And you see, I didn't even think of it because I had, like I said, I had this all prepared. Because Celts are such a vague topic. It's not vague, but because it's such a broad topic and covers such a broad span of people. I've been researching this for the last 3 weeks. So I've been watching videos and doing reading and stuff like that the last 3 weeks. So I had this all prepared. I could have sent it to you guys and said, "Hey, here's what I've got." So that's my bad. I'm sorry.
And to be fair. To be fair, we have quite a fascinating division of labor, for our organization as it is. There are some shows where I really shine. There are some shows that Alexis really shines, and there are some shows that Adam really shines. It's why I don't feel bad about sitting back and being quiet, or on those days where I can really pop up and be the main speaker. Excuse me. But I do know coming up, I believe it's next month, Alexis, you have some amazing topics to discuss, and you're probably going to be the showrunner for that one. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cannot be on the fly, that's for sure. I'm gonna have to spend a couple weeks on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the feeling bad, or I do feel bad when I steamroll. I have a tendency when I do get on a ball talking about something, just ching going, with it like a freight train. And but then I remember it's like there are days like this where what, I've got next to nothing to add to the topic, and I suppose I just view myself as a facilitator in those events. So yeah. We're all pretty faces here.
So I also I didn't really bring it up earlier, but I actually got the forge and worked on some stuff this week, and I just put up a picture in the Island Metal Forge thing of something that I've been meaning to. I mean, most of you have probably already seen this on my Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but yeah. I actually got in there and built something for a change that wasn't.
That's pretty
freaking
amazing. I got it on the main screen right now.
And I need to go back to
I
there.
like how you did the tongue. I take it the tongue is the handle.
Yeah, that's the that's the tang of the rasp.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty cool way of doing it. It's different than the other ways that I've seen.
I've never seen another way of doing it. So,
oh, I've usually seen the tang of it become the tail. And no tongue, but I like the way that you did that.
I will have to say, tapering the round end of the rasp all the way down into a point and keeping it the same thickness, that took a hot minute with my little bitty hammers, because I didn't bust it, because the last time I messed up my arm or whatever. I wasn't gonna get the 8-pounder out and just start wailing on it, so I just did it a little bit at a time. And man, it took a hot minute to get that thing from this wide down to this nice long taper. So
yeah, I really like it, especially keeping the rasp texture, whilst reshaping the steel.
Yeah, that and honestly, the example that I have, so I have one of those that James Duncan gave me from the Sprinkle Donut Forge when I went and visited him, and I swear to God, I have loved that snake ever since he gave it to me, because I just put it in random places and scare people with it, and
snake love is real love.
Yeah, and my grandson does the same thing. He grabs that snake and he'll move it around playing with it, and I'll go to walk in the house and I'm like, yeah, get you every time. And
yeah, I can't do that. I'd get kicked out.
Yeah, right. And so, anyways, now I have 2 of them, and my daughter's going to take that one and put it in the garden somewhere. I don't know, but I mean, even when you make it, and you have a metal rasp snake laying around, when you see it in your peripheral vision, you just see that shape, and your brain just automatically goes snake.
Yep. Especially if you deal with snakes a lot.
And that was fun, and it gave me yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going. The one that I have from Mr. Duncan, it's like there's almost no dents in the rasp part of it. It's just like still got all the little points and everything. And I'm like, I don't know how he did that, but mine are pretty fairly
beaten.
I mean, the texture's still there, but they're not as sharp. I mean, you couldn't rasp anything with them anymore, because I mean, they were all curled around, and the thing was rotated and hit with a hammer as it's going around, making it, so. But that's all right. I think it came out pretty good. So.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
his hammer has the little textures in it, so that when he hits it, those textures go into the hammer, and it moves the metal underneath. I don't know. Or he uses a wooden mallet, beats at it with a 2x4. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it looks spectacular. I was actually like Yamas pointed out earlier. I was initially wondering like how you did the tongue, and maintained. You did a really good job maintaining the scales all the way through to the tail. So that was impressive. It was like, and maintain like keeping that tape like. So did you like do the straight, just taper it out first and try and keep as many of the file teeth, and then curved it, or?
So the first thing I did was, holding it by the tang. I sat there and I worked the taper into it, keeping it, working it flat to keep it flat and not like mushrooming it out or whatever. And I put the taper in it first, and then starting at the taper end, I started curling it. I put it in the vise and hit it a few times, and not, and once it's no longer straight, once it's started to curve, then you can just use the hammer and it'll close up on itself. And so I did that, and I would gradually work my way up the rasp, closing it up so that the raspy side was on the outside, and while I'm doing that, it's kind of curving, it's kind of bending in one direction or the other, so I had to keep flattening it out, whatever. And then once I got the whole thing done, it was just a straight, deal. And then I got as much of it hot as I could in my gas forge, and I just opened up the vise a certain amount and stuck it in there. It was like, bend it this way, slide it down, bend it that way, slide it down, bend it back, and it worked pretty well. And and I watched James Duncan's video on how to make one, probably about 9 months ago, because that's when I originally was going to start doing this project. And I was like, I might as well watch the video on how this snake that I have was actually made. And I didn't go back and watch it again, but I just, it's pretty much in memory by then. I was like, okay, I know which end to start at and how to do it, so I went for it.
Fair enough. And a little tip or trick for those that listen later or in the chat right now. If you're looking to get old farriers rafts, hit up your local farrier. They I know 2 farriers here, and I have basically told them to stop storing rafts for me. They go through them at ridiculous speeds. And they just turf them. So they've always, you ask for a local farrier friend, or call up a farrier and go, hey, you've got an old rasp that you want to get rid of. Most of them will probably happily give them away to you. So yeah, that's just a little handy hint for those that want to try that rasp snake, just like Sally has. On that note, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, what do you reckon our challenge of the month for Celtic for March Madness should be?
I may try a Celtic knot out of steel.
That's a good one.
That's going to be tough.
That's what I want to try.
Yep. I also for those who don't want to try the Celtic knot, or do want to try it, but for the bladesmith that we've got in our community, maybe try a Celtic style knife, which is your basic blacksmith knife, but put a Celtic knot in the in the handle. That'll be tricky.
Right.
I couldn't do it. I'm just putting the challenge out there. I would have not a clue how to do it, but yeah.
Well, I'm looking at it, and basically what I would need is a whole bunch of bar stock, small bar stock. And, there's 2 ways I could go about it. They've got the, it's almost like a lengthy braid, and I can try that, and see what happens. But, yeah. See what we got. Either that or they've got I'm pulling it up on my phone here, image search, They've got the one that's kind of like the triangle, or like the 3 points. Yeah, triangle, but a knot. Something to play with. A lot of interesting, interesting things that could turn out to be interesting to forge. Maybe not super difficult unless you attempt to do a single piece, but for sure,
I want to try something like this right here. My background, not
Yeah.
quite that large and intricate, but something kind of like that,
But the pass through type ironwork, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
There was an interesting one I saw in my research, which is much like that, but it's the pass through intersections are alternate. Alternate. I'm not Englishing isn't good this evening. So alternating pass throughs. So it'll pass through one, and then the opposite will pass through. It looks really, really hard to do, but it was really interesting. And
Yeah.
it's got a similar type shape to that, but yeah.
And
Some of those,
that is a little bit ambitious for me to tackle on my own. I will admit, so I may just kind of do it in a weave type situation, over and under instead of through. But we'll see. Because I know I did do that with a ground rod. I punched a hole in a ground rod and then bent it back over and through itself. And oh my gosh, it took me forever to get it back through and through itself. And then by the time I got done, it looked like it looked like a dumpster fire. I mean, so I was like, well, now.
But at least you practice the process.
At least I could punch a hole, drift it big enough to put its own size through it. Got it through, didn't crack it, didn't break it, whatever. I got it done, but gosh, boy, it was rough.
Yeah.
Well, practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect.
Okay.
Oh. So, what have we got in the chat?
I've seen somewhere they used a plate plasma cut blanks that looks like it's weaved. How did they plasma cut stuff 2,000 years ago? Come on now.
Easily. Jeez. Roy in the Discord chat says might be making a larger version of this cross in the coming months. Who would like to see an updated video on it? If you don't do an updated video on it, what are you even doing? That's what the Moko Gama Gimme stuff that you made. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it is.
I like that base. I like that. That's really cool, Roy.
That's cool. That is gorgeous.
So now you guys know that if he's making a larger version of that he is processing and making large plates of Maku Gami Gimi Gimi, and whatever you pronounce it, the bunch of stacked quarters technique, and yeah.
There's the challenge for Roy. He could make a Celtic cross in that style.
Yeah. Without your laser cutter. Without your laser cutter. I said, yeah. I hate Fallout. That'd be, that would be, I can't think names right now. Says Yamaz, what's up with the eyeballs, bro? You need an exorcist or something, or an exorcism? I don't know. We'll find out tonight. Yeah, that's some pretty creepy stuff. But yeah, we'll find out tonight what happens. And I'll try and keep track of it. And if anything different happens, I'll let y'all know next week. And if you don't hear from me, the show don't happen next week. I'm gone. I'm abducted.
Hey, at least if show don't happen next week, Yamaz has been abducted. However, by the week after, they'll have given him back, and we'll actually find out definitively if aliens or the other side exists.
Yeah. But
And yes, the Barker Englishing wording is tough in any language today. I can't even do it now. Just shoot me.
burn some sage. All right, Ben, I'll burn some sage. Let me see. Did anybody write the pronunciation of Makugamagami? Makumagimi? I don't know.
Makumugane. Come on.
Makumegani?
Makumugane.
Makumugane. Makumugane. Makumegani. Okay, I'll get it figured out one of these days. I'll remember it one of these days.
Macrame.
Macrame, yes. I have a Makumegani tree hanging from my that Ginny puts up every Christmas in one of the windows. You know, it's made of yarn. Makumegani, right? Macrame.
I'm gonna get me some colors and I'm gonna go make me some Makumagane.
Actually, if Roy's still here, I will say, after I saw that, I grabbed a stat. I not collect coins for a coin collector, but like I collect them to toss them in the coin star before Quad State every year. And I grabbed about I think Roy said he did $4. I'm gonna do $6.
I did the biggest one. The biggest one we did. My cousin got a roll of $50, and we did a roll of $50.
Wow. But yeah, so I will try that. I don't know if I should try that during a stream or if I will just be cussing and fussing the whole time. Because you guys know me, if I try something new, I usually screw it up and then, end up frustrated and yelling at the chat.
When I did my, because I did a roll of quarters for mine, and I wound up with, they didn't stick together. I wound up with two pieces that are actually relatively small, maybe, but I wound up. Yeah, I didn't wind up with one piece. I wound up with two pieces. So $10 in quarters was a bit much, I guess. And then and then like I said, my cousin did 20 $half, and yeah. That one actually worked out. The 20 $half, they stuck together and everything. Didn't no delamination, but
I was gonna say, doesn't it have to be like pre 1980 something coins for you guys, because it's got to do with the amount of copper content.
No, because the interior of all of it is cupro nickel, which is like 90% copper. And then they're coated with nickel on the outside. So,
right, okay,
yeah. The
Wow.
182,000. Wow. Roy, when I went back and watched that video again after the 100,000 subscriber live stream, and and then I went to the particulars on it to see where you were at, and it was like the next day it was like at 150 something thousand subs, and I was, dang, that was
wow.
that. I mean, that was just in 12 hours, it blew up like 20 or 30,000 people, and the views was up there. I think at like 30 million views, something like that at the time.
Roy
rocketed 250,000.
Congratulations, Roy. Now there is a requirement for you. You are now required, before you come on this show at any given time or come in this chat in any given time, that you must make a post about it on your social medias, on your YouTube and whatnots. That, hey guys, come hang out with me at Sunday morning gathering with the Impractical Blacksmiths.
Well, realistic. I mean, Roy's only like 50, 60, 70,000 subs from not having time to associate with the likes of us. So
I know, right? It's gonna be sad. Wait! He just
gonna leave us behind.
I'm checking. He just hit 200,000.
Really?
Probably. No, I don't know.
I'm actually gonna have a look right now, because he said 180 something. But I'm
12 hours.
12
hours after that live stream. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me go in and sub real quick and
yeah, I've got a sub before you're like I'm not even subbed to Roy.
Got to get in on the first million,
Yeah, nah, I've been sub to
186.
Roy. I've been sub to Roy for years, but
Yep. I remember when Roy was still sub 50k, so or sub 30k.
Jack,
yeah.
Jack Pine says he knows he needs a moderator, but he'd hate to have his live stream chat derailed by some random viewer. No, that's actually a pretty good practice. Grab a couple of the people that are always in there or whatever, and just make them mods. That way, when one of the quote unquote sex bots just drops into your chat and starts just bombing stuff, they can just like whoop, pick
Oh,
it
I
out. Because
love them.
if you're over there at the forge or whatever, you might not notice it for 3-4 minutes, and it's like people are like, wait a minute. So it's good. It's good practice to have a moderator or two.
Yeah, those bots are the only attention I get. I'm lonely. Hello. Speaking of which, yeah, Roy, could you say that again? It's hard to hear you from way up here. You get down out of your ivory tower, Roy. Come down and slum it down by the sub 5,000s. Act like you've been there.
Roy's leaving us all behind.
No. Roy is family. Roy is family, and I do consider Roy one of the impractical blacksmiths here with us. He's more on the practical side of the impractical blacksmiths.
Yeah, he's fairly practical, I would say.
Yeah.
I've rarely seen Roy do dumb shit. Okay, I've never seen Roy do dumb shit, but
I mean, I was gonna say he's been on the show enough as a guest. Of all of our guests, aside from Trail Dust, who is here in the chat listening every week, not speaking, always here. For those of you who don't know, we do have a list of people who are in the chat. I can actually show you guys. I know we're just kind of hanging out right now and whatever, but oh well. It's our show and we can do what we want. Move it over and show you guys. We have a list right here of everybody that's in the chat hanging out, and yeah, I usually hide that to square up the show every week. But yeah, no, I'm very, very, very much. I'm proud of you, Roy, and I'm glad that you're making it. And if I recall some of the stories that you've shared of early YouTube days for you and me, sometimes I feel like I've failed myself and failed my viewers for stopping on my pre-recordeds and my edited videos. I just your early story is amazing. You did a whole bunch of videos and then kind of stopped for 6 years. And then you look back and you're like, oh wow, I've got thousands of subscribers, and so then you started back up again, and and then kept at it, and you kept fighting that stupid YouTube algorithm, and you fought and you clawed, and you and Jess worked your butts off, and it's like you are on the path of making it. You've beaten the algorithm. From here on out, them numbers going to grow exponentially. And I really strongly feel that even with the current videos right now, it's just going to keep climbing. You put another one of those viral ones up that hits 50 million views, like the Mokugu Gamigimi, and you're going to hit 1 million subs.
Because it's that easy there. You just go, you know what? I think I'm gonna put up a viral video today. Let me go ahead and get out there and I'll make
no, like I'm just saying them's videos that randomly hit, like me, I thought Makuma Gamigi was, like it was really popular and I saw it everywhere like 2 years ago. And like Roy says, everything is cyclical, everybody forgets about it, and then you hit it again and you get a new audience, and you just continue to grow. So I think the next step for Roy, if he were to do like a Damascus, make a pattern welded steel, and then take that and in the video turn it into like an acanthus leaf or something, a Damascus acanthus leaf, it'll be like, he'll probably get 1 million, 1 million thousand. What's like multiples of millions, views on that.
Quadrillion.
Billions.
Mega, yeah, So
Damascus Leaf, sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
yeah, I joke around about being sponsored all the time, and I do get constant sponsorship emails, sponsorship request emails in my email folder all the time. But they're for stuff that have nothing to do with blacksmithing, like Vessi shoes or the earbuds. I'm like, I'm not sponsoring, the Ray-Bans or Raycon, whatever they're called, earbuds. I've got skull candies, and I ain't switching.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm not a financial negotiator.
That manatee fart one was like your best video. Ugh.
I wouldn't say my best video. Come on. Good Lord.
We were talking about, like content, whatever. Like I put out a lot of content back when I had no freaking clue what I was doing and couldn't edit, couldn't set up a shot properly. And then, once I figured it all out, I was like, man, this is a lot of work. Man, I'm really not that interested in, because at the end of the day, it's all just a cry for attention. So, and I don't really need that. I just want to do my thing, and I have a lot of fun with this, and for me, that's I don't want to do something that's not fun. And,
yeah. Well,
as for me, I'm itching to get back to making content. The only thing that's holding up is my damn workshop.
Yeah,
it's coming. It's coming.
And
I'll be honest.
If you listen to the podcast with any sort of regularity, you would know I've been way behind. I mean, I just put up 2 of them. I think 2 of them last night, and I think I'm only 1 behind now. And the reason is I hate editing, but I get it done. And so, the things that I like to do, like working, like going to work, playing in the shop, doing this show. I love doing all this stuff. So it's
work, but it's work with
some job you never work a day in your life, kind of thing. But the 3 or 4 hours per episode I got to spend editing is just drudgery for me.
Yeah, and on that, we have our funds. If you guys need anything, let me know. But yeah, sorry, I'm so tired, guys. I usually look at the time and end it, but it's just I'm stuck in a conversational loop, so I apologize.
I was going to say it has been an hour, so it's about an hour 20 minutes now. So it's about time that we wrap up. So whilst Yamas is getting his brain into gear and actually trying to figure out what he's going to say, Sully, do you have any final thoughts?
Sure. Celtic ironwork. No, I got nothing.
He said it all. Freaking Adam said it all.
In all seriousness, though, it's the decorative part of the Celtic ironwork is something that's a little. I mean, looking at the pictures and whatnot, I mean, it's kind of fascinating the way some of it's done. So get out to your shop and try to see if you can weave some stuff. See if you can do some pass through if you want. At the end of the day, it's all, to me, it's fascinating, and I have the most fun trying to replicate it. And then, and that's my problem is once I do something successfully, and then it's done, I'm like, okay, on to the next thing. And instead of doing it, 20 more times, it's like, I don't want to do it 20 more times. I've already done it once. Yeah. So trying not to do that. That's a symptom of some stuff that I got going on up here that I can't do stuff twice. But get out there, get to your shop, make something pretty, have fun doing it. And I'll see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Sully. So before we get into my final thoughts and whatnot, I just want to say thank you for joining us this evening, everyone. You can find Yames on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Alexis at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you have any suggestions for Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, leave it under the hashtag Metal of the Week in the YouTube community chat in Discord, or you can find us at Impractical Blacksmith at gmail.com. If you found us on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and Google Podcasts, we upload every Wednesday. Generally, not always exactly on time, but around at Wednesday. Or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's currently 12:30 Australian Central Standard Time, but check that against your local time. And that's the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe button. And if you're listening to the podcast, don't forget to give us a rating. We appreciate your support. My final thoughts is Celtic. The Celtic community and Celtic smithing particularly is something that is so fascinating. If you have the opportunity, particularly if you're in an area that may have a museum with display of some Celtic ironwork, Celtic goldsmithing, Celtic silversmithing, these guys were, even though we don't have any written records, these guys were masters of their work. Some of the stuff that you can find on the internet in museums and stuff like that is absolutely mind-blowing. We attribute a lot of stuff to Romans, a lot of stuff to Greeks and Egyptians and stuff like that, but the Western European Celtic cultures were just as good and just as mind-blowing. So I encourage you to have a look at that. On that note, Yames, have you got any final thoughts?
I'd just like to say huge thank you to all the subscribers, trying to think of the word, super chatters, and the channel members. Sorry. Huge thank you. You guys are in our hearts. Big thank you to all of the supporters of the channel, both here and not here. And everybody give a big round of applause for my co-hosts. They keep the show together when I'm having days like this. But yeah, I couldn't do it without you guys. I love y'all. I might take a nap today. I saw a couple of people asking what I'm going to be doing tonight. I might try the Celtic Cross, or don't know. I will be, or I might try the Mokugugugimi today. So, Mokegami Ghana. Yeah. I'll never be able to say that.
Make
it's just
one
of those words. Make it rainy.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go down here to Tim Hortons. We're gonna get a cup, and then when we come back, we're gonna make them gain, eh?
Yeah. So with all that, big thanks. Appreciate everybody, and I will see you this evening at 6 p.m. Eastern for some live forging. Maybe I'll chase that 50 million and do Mokugigami. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.